how do you judge your kids' competition? And so this is actually going to be one of the tips that's in the first workshop. It's how do you judge your kids' competition? And so if you take a step back and look at this, your kid's competing against another kid
Mhm.
who's been coached, who's trying as hard as they can, who's hopefully has a good attitude and doing all the right stuff also. And how do you judge that? And most parents, most grandparents, like the first question afterwards is, how did you do? Did you win? Or
Yeah.
and so, and so the judgment of competition is strictly on the result.
Yeah. Result
And
mindset.
result mindset, like outcome oriented,
Mhm.
um, and you're not in control of the outcome. No athlete that's ever lost, no sports team that's ever lost has been gone into that competition saying, you know what, I'm deciding to lose today.
Woo! Right.
So, so um, how do you judge it? And so hopefully, um, parents want their kids to get something out of sports more than just winning, more than a college scholarship.
Yeah.
Um, they are going to have a last competition. Your kid is gonna have their last game, and whether that's a high school game, a college game, a professional game, after a 20-year career, they're still going to have 50, 60, 70 years of their life after their last game.
Yeah.
And so what from sports do you hope your kid has gained?
Say that question one more time.
What do you hope your kid has gained from sports?
Gain from sports. Yeah.
Gained.
Mm-hmm.
So what attributes, what skills, what mindsets?
Happy Friday, youth developer. I'm excited to introduce my friend, Coach Clint, a fellow enlifted coach, a high school teacher whose main focus is on performance mindset. Coach Clint, welcome to the youth developer.
Hey, thank you, Patty. I've been wanting to connect with you like this for so long, and I'm glad we're able to make it work.
Yes, even though I messed up the time zones of this interview.
I had already gotten past that. I've forgotten about that.
Yeah, you did. I actually put it on Instagram. Can you believe that? I was like, sorry, Coach Clint. Check out my story.
I will.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I'm excited. I know you're joining us all the way from Texas and you do have power.
Yep.
Everything's good.
I've had power back for 2 days now. So yeah, it was out for three before that.
3 days without power?
Yeah. Yep.
Ooh,
It went out Sunday night, Monday morning, and then we got it back on Wednesday afternoon.
okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
And what part of Texas are you in again?
In the Dallas Fort Worth area, in
Yeah.
between Dallas and Fort Worth. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Jimmy and I've been there. You guys have the best margaritas ever. I mean, well, okay, Austin has good margaritas too, but my first experience of a margarita was in Dallas, Texas. So, high five. I love it. Well, I'm happy to have you here. I know, like you said, we've been talking for a while. We have, well, I was going to say two things in common. I want to say more, but we do work with the youth, and you are very passionate about connecting with parents and having parent, athlete, and coach, right? And that circle, or that in the importance about our relationship as coaches with parents, and then parents with the athletes. So did I get that correct?
Yes, you did. Yeah. It's all right.
That's awesome. So what led you into this journey and performance mindset with your athletes?
Um, so when I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to college and saw all the academic advisors on campus, and the degree I could get done the fastest was psychology. Uh, so I'm like sold. I'm taking this, and it was such a blessing. I was able to find something sport related in every class. One of my professors, his daughter had played professional tennis, and he was a coach for all through juniors. And so I got to do an independent study through him. Prior to starting school, I was already coaching, and at the time, my mindset was, um, "Your kid's my student. You're pay me to do the job. Get out of the picture." Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That and so many other coaches like have that same mindset. And then there was one comment in a lifespan development class that the number one indicator of a successful adult is a positive parent-child interaction.
Nice.
And like that, when that was said to me, that was straight up like a face palm,
Mm,
because that was so opposite of how I had been coaching.
mm.
And so like that moment in that class, like I made a shift and tried to pull parents into like what we were working on. Um, and it didn't work well.
As many things when we try it for the first time.
Right. Right. So I was awkward in those conversations. Some of the parents are like, "What's going on here?" so, um, and I've sprinkled it in where over the years sprinkled it in where they were ready to receive it,
Mm,
where parents were ready to receive it. And since Enlifted, I am like changing that mindset totally. Like this is what I do. It's
yeah.
um, pulling the kid out of adult conversations. That's the goal. And so if you look at the current model right now in youth sports,
Mhm.
you've got a kid, you've got a parent, you've got a private coach, you've got some sort of team coach, and the only link in all of those entities communicating is the kid.
Mm,
So, and so um, what I'm doing is creating a model, creating a process where it makes it easy for um, parents and coaches to communicate, where it makes it easy for the kids to like, hey, this is what we're working on with one coach, and it's connected with everything else.
yeah. Communication being the key for any kind of relationship, right? As
Yeah, exactly.
spouse. And so that's good. I love that you're focusing on communication. That's like our number one vehicle for our relationships. So that's really neat. So in this whole process that you're doing with the parents and the athletes, what would be something that maybe you could share? Take out the maybe. What would be a what would be some of your tips for parents right now who are having a challenge, whether it's with their current coach or even communicating with their children? And I know that you have a program, and I know there's a workshop that we're gonna lead people
No,
into after this episode. But what would be something that you could share with someone, a practical that they could do?
um, how do you judge your kids' competition? And so this is actually going to be one of the tips that's in the first workshop. It's how do you judge your kids' competition? And so if you take a step back and look at this, your kid's competing against another kid
Mhm.
who's been coached, who's trying as hard as they can, who's hopefully has a good attitude and doing all the right stuff also. And how do you judge that? And most parents, most grandparents, like the first question afterwards is, how did you do? Did you
Mhm.
win? Or
Yeah,
and so, and so the judgment of competition is strictly on the result.
yeah. Result
And
mindset.
result mindset, like outcome oriented,
Mhm.
um, and you're not in control of the outcome. No athlete that's ever lost, no sports team that's ever lost has been gone into that competition saying, you know what, I'm deciding to lose today.
Woo! Right.
So, so um, how do you judge it? And so hopefully Parents want their kids to get something out of sports more than just winning or losing, more than a college scholarship.
Yeah.
They are going to have a last competition. Your kid is gonna have their last game, and whether that's a high school game, a college game, a professional game, after a 20-year career, they're still going to have 50, 60, 70 years of their life after their last game.
Yeah.
And so what from sports do you hope your kid has gained?
Say that question one more time.
So 10, 20, 30, 50 years after their last game,
Yeah.
what do you hope your kid has gained from sports?
Gain from sports. Yeah.
Gained.
Mm-hmm.
So what attributes, what skills, what mindsets?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
if you're looking at youth sports in that context, then you can judge their competitions in that context.
An athlete or a child's biggest champion are parents, right? Yes, as coaches, as youth developers, we have influence. At the end of the day, I will say that parents are with their children the longest. So, yeah, and that's something that children you want. I want my parents to be proud of me. Still, I'm 44, and I'm still looking for like, how do I do in there?
Well, there's also another unique perspective on parents is as a coach, I'm looking at the whole team and the individuals and bits in like where I can.
Yeah.
Where a parent, they're focused, they're zoomed in on their kids. So there's a good and a bad with that. But the good with that is parents provide a unique perspective to coaches because they can give that zoomed in, like, hey, this is happening, um, perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when the collaboration between parents and coaches come, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So my fourth um,
Module.
episode in the series,
Hmm.
it's same team, question mark. So it's focusing on that collaboration between multiple coaches, the kids, the parents. So
Cool. Cool.
yeah.
Why don't you talk to us about the episodes? How many episodes do you have? I love that.
Six. I have six. Here's one of the things I really love about doing free education. Free is that I get to be uncensored. So,
So true. So true.
yeah, the first one is process creation, and the focus of that is judging competition.
Hmm.
Um, the second one is, and so with each one of these, I'm going to also layer in vocabulary concepts. So this first one, I'm going to introduce architect and conflict language in judging competitions.
Okay. And for
The
those who
second one
don't
is,
know, for
what's that?
for those who don't know what vocabulary is, it's the process of our vocabulary, meaning the power of our language. So yes. I mean, that's how I've been explaining it because I actually did not know what pro was. What's the pro for? For pro, as in professional?
Yeah, no, it's for process.
Yeah.
And so as soon as I heard that name, I thought the vocabulary name was like kind of cheesy when I heard
Yeah.
it, until I heard process vocabulary. I'm like, oh, this makes so much sense now.
Process versus identity. That I don't know why I called him Martin. That Mark talked about in his TED talk. Okay, that's awesome. So first one is process creation, and the second one you're doing vocabulary work.
So all of them will have some sort of concept from vocabulary.
Okay,
And so the very first one, I'll introduce architect and conflict language.
got it.
The second one is dumb stuff my kids say.
I love the titles.
Oh, I'm like, I wanted to have fun with this. Yeah. So in that, I'll introduce the victim mentality and the reticular activating system. The third one is tired of repeating yourself, and that and
Mm,
that's negations. And you and I had talked about that. I believe Mark
yes.
uh, talked about a lot of negations on um, his episode with you.
Yeah, we'll tag it in here for sure. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Um, car ride home, and um, this is where so many youth athletes decide to quit a sport.
Wow.
And
That
so,
gave me chills. Wow.
right, like it's not worth hearing like losing, getting my butt kicked, doing everything that I um, thought I was supposed to do, and then hear about it, relive it a second time on the way home.
Wow. Yes.
So,
Ooh.
um, the fifth one is same team, and this is soft talk and up talk, but the focus is um, right now in youth sports, the club sport, the club coach, the individual coach, the school coach aren't necessarily on the same team. And
Mm.
so that's one of the sad truths right now in youth sports. And it's been my experience both on the private side and the school side that these three entities are pulling kids in separate directions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
So it's helping to align that, right? Because
helping to align
alignment
that.
equals velocity, right? In a tires or alignment. I mean, how fast could your car go like this? It's
See, so
not.
I, I love that. So alignment, I'm still in that.
Yeah,
Alignment equals
please
velocity.
do. I got that when I was in MLM Primerica. I'm not sure if you heard of them, but my VP shared that, and I was like, explosion.
No, exactly. Like um, one of the ways I was thinking about explaining that was the scene from Braveheart at the very end, where he's getting drawn and quartered, and so Mel Gibson sitting there with his arms tied and getting pulled
Yes.
in all these different directions, and you have the king overseeing this. You have people in the crowd, and you have everyone pulling in all these different directions. You have the executioner um, eviscerating him, and he's yelling. His last words are freedom. And
Yes.
if that's your kid, who are you in that scene? Are you
Hmm.
the king overlooking it? Are you the person in the crowd that feels sorry and doesn't know how to act? Are you one of those horses like
Hmm.
pulling in the opposite direction? And
Wow.
so
Yeah, it's a good
so
analogy.
and so that alignment equals velocity um, is a way now to bring that home. You take
Cool.
all power and put it in the same direction, and now what's going to happen?
Yes, yes, and see how fast. It's a way to the fast track. So that's really cool. Okay.
And then the last one is last competition.
Hmm.
How will you be remembered 10 years later?
Hmm. Yeah. Very cool.
And these are conversations that I'm happy to have with parents and kids.
Yeah.
Um, After the fact, so um, some of my best memories in youth sports were my dad taking me to tournaments.
Hmm.
Yeah, like I remember. So from Abilene, Texas, small West Texas town, it's a 3 hour drive from here. My mom had been teaching me how to drive without my dad knowing it, and so I have my permit. So he's going to let me drive, thinking it's on the first time on the freeway.
Hmm.
And so I remember driving to this tournament, him falling asleep, and me just flooring it. I was like, oh, he's and so he wakes up, sees a truck way in the distance, and starts like slamming on the like he's thinking he's slamming on the brake, and I'm laughing,
Yeah.
and it's like, and he just like looks over, is like, how long have you been driving? Like it's like that I don't remember like how I did in that tournament. Don't remember like how I
Yeah.
played, but I remember that trip, and I remember like that night in the hotel, and
Hmm.
so yeah, like that night. He's like, yeah, just take us to dinner. You pick a spot. And he just sat back, like we chatted, like it was, you know. And so those are the memories that you have the chance of creating with your kids
Hmm.
around sports.
Hmm.
And if you look at the car ride home and the idea of being on the same team, um, like I didn't do well in that tournament. Like I was not a very good at that age. At 16, I was getting my butt kicked. So if my results had affected that night, that would not have been a good memory.
Mm. Wow. I am really getting chills. They are in both my arms. Have you watched the show This Is Us?
No.
Or do you know about it? It's with Mandy Moore, and I forget the name of the other. Well, there's about four main characters, and so there is a scene where Jack, who's one of the main characters, has a memory when he had a baseball game, and his dad will drink after the game, so he will. So for him, baseball was a way to make his dad proud. However, walking to the car was the worst thing for him. He didn't know. So if he lost, dad will be drunk. If he won, he still be drunk, but he will be a happy drunk. Do you know what I'm saying? So he will like hesitate the car home. This is why I'm getting chills because in that episode, the dad, he sort of stood up to his dad. He might have been like a teen by then. And he's like, "Are you sure you want to drive now?" He's like, "Oh, you think you're a big guy?" And he throws him the key. He's never driven before. And that's a memory. As you were talking about you and your dad, I'm picturing that memory in the car with your dad, having those moments where like, deep talks. And you mentioned the word, what memories can you create, like
Yeah.
keyword create, like really you, right, as the adult, create with your child. So yeah, that show you. Every episode you have tissues around you, because even my husband, my Hanito, he's like, "Oh my goodness, this show, I don't know, I don't know."
I, the first time I heard you say Juanito, I thought it was like Ito Spanish, like small, like my little honey. Like I was
Oh,
like, like that's what I thought the first
he
time I
does
heard.
not speak Spanish. Negation acknowledged. So I love it. Oh goodness. Okay, conversations in the car. I mean, this is so key to the conversation, and I love that you're going to be doing. And this is a free workshop, correct, for
Yeah,
parents? And you mentioned this is on Thursdays.
the first Thursday of the month for the next 6 months.
I love it. This is a once a month place with other parents, you to start. I don't know if the word is brainstorming, but what I want to say is like asking ourselves those deeper questions, right?
So right now on the levels of like competency, the competency model, like we want to be unconscious competent at something. Like when we walk, we don't think about walking.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, as far as like judging how your kid like competes and what they get out of sports, parents are unconsciously incompetent about like how to look at a competition or ask themselves what they want long term out of sports.
Yeah.
I mean, I've even had this conversation with coaches who have like high level players. I'm like, hey, so what are you wanting them to get out of sports? And they're like, hey, I want them to get a D1 scholarship. I mean, we're looking at big schools getting paid for an education. I'm like, cool. What about after that?
Yeah.
What do you mean? And so that was one of the triggers for me to like really dive into this is this high level coach, a guy that I like really respect and have this conversation with about his son. And that's where the conversation went.
Yeah.
And so he didn't even know or acknowledge that there was more to sports than the sport.
Yeah.
And so the goal with these is to shine the light on a different way of thinking about sports,
Yeah.
which will end up empowering the kid and making your family stronger because of sports.
Yeah. With this workshops or episodes, is this also open to other coaches?
Yes.
Yeah.
So a little challenge I've also given myself is that month to give that same presentation as many times as possible. So if there's a group of two people that want me to go over this, I'm going to do it. And so I've been reaching out to other organizations, strength and conditioning organizations that deal with multiple sports, some other coaches at at my school, and just like, hey, if you want me to share this with your parents, I'm happy to. So um, yeah,
Yeah. I'm thinking of a lot of parent coordinators. If you're out there listening to us, or guidance counselors, I know you want speakers. So right now, Coach Clint has opened up his calendar
yeah,
to share this information as much as possible. So I will definitely reach out. I know here in Staten Island, sports are big. Baseball's big. Baseball's very big here in Staten Island, and in New York City overall. Basketball and baseball, I would say, are the biggest sports here, and Jersey as well. So I love that. Okay, well, I'm very grateful that we spoke about the conversations in the car. I if you so if you are listening, you're a parent or you're a coach or you're both, because that happens too. I want to challenge and inspire you to have that conversation and create the conversation today, as in right now, as in, hey, what's up? I mean, literally, it's opening up a question, open ended, for our children. So I really appreciate what you're doing for the connection of the parent coach athlete connection. Well, it's more than that, right? Not athlete, our youth. Parent athlete youth. That is awesome. So, Coach Clint, I I would love to end here, because unless you want to add something to that question that we're challenging the youth developer who's watching today, as far as the car ride, I know that with in the community you're trying to develop, I'm sure being amongst other peers and talking about the struggle and the victories or the challenges that you may have or fears that you may have, to open the conversation, because perhaps that was not your thought, right? Your thought process is win school, college, that's it, right? And so how do we go from being result oriented to really focusing on the whole development of your child? So
so the focus shifts from the result to the process. And in order to have a process, the parent needs to know what their child's working on with their coaches. And that's a conversation between athlete and parent, child and parent. Um, and as far as the car ride home, it's a conversation like, how do you want me to act? What questions do you want me to ask after you lost? And
mm,
so we brought up, hey, the car ride home and the bad side of it, but what's the fix? What's the answer? How do you make it better?
yeah.
And it before the loss, before the win, before the competition, it's how do you want to be supported in our language. Um,
Mhm.
but from parent to child, it's like, hey, what do you want me to ask you about?
Mhm. That's sweet. That's I mean, hit it right there in the nail. How do you want to be supported? What would you want me to ask? Key. Putting it right here at the bottom. This is great. This is great. Well, Coach Clint, this is a good practical for a parent, for a coach. I again, um, parents, athletes, coaches. The website for Coach Clint is in the description, on the video description below. He is starting. You said March. Is that March 4th?
Yes, March March 4th is the first Thursday, so starting March 4th.
Yeah, so it's going to be on the first Thursday for the duration of 6 months.
6 months.
Correct.
And then um, close to the end, I'm going to reflect and decide whether to keep going, ramp it up, dial it back. I have a feeling I'm going to ramp it up. That's so.
Yeah, I love it. Well, thank you so much, parents out there and coaches. Head over to his website down. I was gonna say downstairs. Head over to Coach Clinton's website on the video description below, and we will see you at our next interview. Coach Clinton from Staten Island, the Hanito, the Miss Patty. Thank you so much for coming to and offering this valuable information for our community. We love it.
Thank you so much, Patty.
Yes.
I really enjoyed it.